My teenage daughter started dating a boy from 2 blocks over. Sweet kid. Our neighbor knocked one night and said, "If you want to raise that kind of girl, fine. But don't bring the trash to my lawn." I slammed the door. The next week, her school backpack was slashed open on our porch. Inside was a copy of her diary, pages missing. We realized someone had broken into her room. Then she noticed something worse, a camera light in her closet, hidden in a toy. The serial number traced back to our neighbor's Amazon account. I'm a 43-year-old dad living just outside Knoxville, Tennessee, in a neighborhood called Pine Hill. It's one of those places where houses were built in the 70s, most of the yards are overgrown, and every neighbor pretends they like each other. I've been here 19 years. My wife passed away 6 years ago, so it's just me and my kids now. My daughter Mara is 16. Smart. Kind of nerdy. Protective of people. She still hugs me before bed. She wears these oversized hoodies and listens to old music. She's a good kid. A few months back, she started hanging out with a boy named Jeremy from a few streets over. I met him when he came over for dinner. Polite. Soft-spoken. He looked at his shoes a lot and called me, sir, even when I told him not to. I liked him right away. I remember thinking, this is the kind of boy I wish she'd find later in life, not now, but still better than most. They were innocent. They'd sit on the porch talking for hours, sharing earbuds, just being kids. They never even kissed in front of me. But apparently, someone didn't like what they saw. One night, around 8 p.m., there was a knock on the door. I opened it, expecting a neighbor needing something. Instead, it was Walter Glenn. He lives directly across the street. Retired military, mid-60s, thin white hair, upright posture like he's still standing at attention. Always out mowing the lawn that barely grows, picking up leaves one by one. The kind of guy who writes HOA complaint letters even though we don't have an HOA. He didn't say hello. Didn't smile. He looked at me like I disgusted him. Then he said this. "If you want to raise that kind of girl, fine. But don't bring the trash to my lawn." I blinked. I genuinely didn't understand what he meant at first. "What did you just say?" "She's out there with that boy." Letting him paw at her like some alley slut. "You want to turn a blind eye, that's your business. But don't bring that trash where people can see it." That man was talking about my daughter. 16 years old. I stepped forward close enough to smell his aftershave. "You say one more word about my daughter, I swear to God." He didn't flinch. He just turned and walked away. I slammed the door so hard it rattled the picture frames. I wanted to tell myself it was over. That Walter was just an old creep who'd gotten too bold. But I know better now. That was just the beginning. A week later, on a Monday morning, Mara screamed. I ran downstairs, thinking she was hurt. She was standing on the front porch, holding her backpack like it was a dead animal. It had been slashed open, ripped right down the back like someone had taken a box cutter to it. The contents were spilled across the porch. Torn notebooks. Personal drawings. Candy wrappers. And then she found it. A printed-out copy of her diary. Page after page. Not the whole thing, some entries were missing. But the ones that were there, they were personal. Things no one should have seen. Not even me. Thoughts about losing her mom. Fears she'd never spoken. And worst of all, parts about Jeremy. Her feelings for him. Private stuff, written in a spiral notebook under her bed. She dropped it and backed away, like it burned her hands. "Someone was in my room," she said. At first, I didn't want to believe it. I checked the doors, the windows. Everything looked normal. Then I saw it. The lock on her bedroom window had been jimmied. Not broken, just nudged open with something thin. There was a fresh scrape on the pane near the latch. I went cold. I didn't want her to see how scared I was. But she already knew. That night, she tried to sleep in her room. At 2 a.m., she came into mine shaking. "There's something wrong with my closet." I got up, heart pounding, and followed her. She pointed to the top shelf, at an old teddy bear she hadn't touched in years. Its glass eye had a faint red glow. We opened it. Inside was a tiny camera, hidden in the head. It wasn't big, about the size of a coin. But it was real. Battery-powered. A micro SD card inside. We were both silent for a long time. The next day, I called Jeremy's older brother Kyle. He works in cybersecurity. I didn't tell him everything. Just said we found something weird and needed help. He looked at the camera and did some digging. Traced the purchase. It had been bought from Amazon 6 weeks ago. Then he found the buyer's name. Walter Glenn. He even showed me the public Amazon reviews from Walter's profile. Generic reviews, lawn tools, batteries, a few electronics. And one hidden camera bear, shipped to a P.O. box a few miles away. I nearly blacked out from rage. But I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed more. Because if I was going to ruin him, and I mean ruin him, I had to make it stick. I started watching him. Tracking his patterns. I took photos of every time he left the house. When his lights turned off. Who he talked to. What packages got delivered. And then I found something. Walter had a shed. Padlocked. Hidden behind a rotting fence. He always went back there after sunset. So I waited. And then one night I followed him. I waited until a Thursday night. Walter always dragged his garbage cans out around 9 p.m., like clockwork. That's when I saw him disappear behind the fence at the back of his yard, holding a small box under his arm. He stayed out there for almost 10 minutes. I watched the silhouette of him moving around in the shed. No lights, just the shape of him pacing. I waited until Friday night to make my move. I told Mara I was going out to get groceries. She didn't say anything. We were barely talking. She stayed locked in her room most days now, phone off, barely eating. I knew she blamed herself for what happened, even though it was never her fault. I crossed the street at 10 p.m. with a lockpick set I bought online and gloves. His backyard was empty. The shed was old, made of metal and patched wood. One of the hinges was already rusting off. The padlock was cheap. I had it off in less than a minute. Inside smelled like mildew and motor oil. There was a workbench against the back wall, cluttered with tools. I spotted a folded tarp, a box of gloves, and several plastic storage bins. I opened the first bin and froze. Inside were photos. Hundreds of them. Of Mara. At school. At home. At the grocery store. On the porch with Jeremy. Some zoomed in so far you could see the freckles on her cheeks. I opened the second bin. More photos, this time of other girls. Some as young as 10 or 11. All of them from the neighborhood. Some I recognized. Some I didn't. Each photo had a name and an address written on the back. I wanted to puke. The third bin had electronics. Small cameras. USB drives. Spy gear. Everything someone would need to secretly watch and record people. I took photos of everything. When I left the shed, I relocked it like nothing happened. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I showed Kyle the pictures. He looked sick. He said we couldn't go straight to the cops yet, not without backing it all up. What if Walter found out? What if he destroyed everything before police could get a warrant? We needed someone on the inside. So Kyle did something risky. He found Walter's Wi-Fi network and cracked the password. He got access to a cloud backup folder Walter had linked to the hidden cameras. And what he found made my blood freeze. Live feeds. Walter had more cameras. Not just in our house. In other homes. Girls brushing their hair. Sleeping. Changing clothes. He was watching kids live. And one of the feeds was from Mara's room. He had other angles. Multiple cameras. The bear was just one of them. We copied everything. Every second of footage. Every name. Every IP address. All of it. We sent it anonymously to the FBI, local news, and the school board. Then we waited. But Walter didn't get arrested right away. For 3 days, nothing happened. Then, the morning of the 4th day, I woke up to sirens. 2 unmarked black cars. 1 squad car. Walter standing in his driveway with his arms raised. They cuffed him right there. No words. No yelling. It should have felt like relief. But Mara still didn't smile. The damage was done. That night, I noticed something strange. On our back fence, written in red spray paint, were the words, "You think this ends with me?" I checked every lock. Every door. Every window. I didn't sleep. The next day, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single USB stick, and a note. "Your daughter isn't the only one I watched. You should ask your boss about his late nights." I plugged it into an offline laptop wiped clean. There were videos. Not of Mara. Not of us. But of my boss, Don Talbert, in a motel room with a girl who looked very, very young. And then it clicked. Walter had dirt on everyone. Cops. Neighbors. Teachers. He'd been watching this town for years. And even in jail, he had insurance. I called Kyle. "We're not done," I said. "No," he agreed. "We're just getting started." I didn't know who else had gotten a USB stick. Maybe I was the only one. Maybe not. But that video of Don, my boss, a married man with 3 grown daughters, meant Walter had been covering himself for a long time. The footage was clear. Don looked straight into the camera at one point and laughed like he didn't have a care in the world. The girl couldn't have been older than 14. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, just staring at that screen. Mara came in, saw my face, and didn't even ask. She just sat down beside me. We were both broken in different ways. I'd been living next to a predator. She'd been the target of one. But now we knew this wasn't just about Walter. It was about the whole damn town. Kyle and I met that night in the back of a hardware store parking lot, the kind of place that shuts down by 8 and goes dark after. He was already waiting in his truck. "I ran a scan," he said. "The files on that USB?" They weren't stored locally. They were downloaded from a cloud server. Walter still got stuff stashed somewhere. "He's in jail," I said. Kyle nodded. "But someone else has the key." Over the next week, strange things started happening. The school board issued a vague statement about internal misconduct under investigation. A teacher Mara never liked, Ms. Haley, her gym teacher, abruptly resigned. Said she was moving out of state. No goodbye. No warning. 2 houses down, a family packed up in the middle of the night. No moving truck. Just bags and plastic bins. They were gone by morning. I started asking around. Everyone acted nervous. The ones who used to smile and wave didn't anymore. The local coffee shop owner closed early and told me quietly, "It's all gonna come out soon. People are scared." Scared of what? I was starting to understand. Walter had been watching this town for over a decade. And some people knew. Hell, some people might have helped. Then came the fire. It was a Thursday night. I'd just gotten Mara to eat dinner for the first time in days. We were watching reruns of Family Feud when we heard the sirens. The sky outside glowed orange. It was Walter's house. Fully engulfed. Flames shooting out of the roof. Neighbors stood outside, quiet, watching it burn. Nobody tried to put it out. I stood on my porch, arms crossed, and saw something that made my blood run cold. Walter's wife. She hadn't been around during the arrest. Said she was visiting her sister in Georgia. I hadn't seen her in weeks. But there she was, standing alone by the curb, wearing a hoodie, staring at the flames with a blank face. Then she turned and looked right at me. And smiled. Not a big smile. Not happy. A warning. The next day, I got another envelope. This one didn't have a USB stick. It had a photo. A photo of Mara at the park, taken from behind a bush. Dated 2 days ago. And one line scrawled on the back. "If you don't stay out of it, we finish what he started." I called Kyle in a panic. We reviewed every feed, every motion alert, every shred of info we had. He said something I hadn't considered. Walter's not the only one who had access to the cameras. He had backups. He shared login info with someone. Who? Could be anyone. Someone in law enforcement. Someone in the neighborhood. Hell, even someone in your house. I froze. What are you saying? He shook his head. I don't know. But you need to think. Who's been in your home in the last 6 months? Who had enough time to plant that camera? Who knew where Mara's diary was? Then he said something that changed everything. Think about the backpack. I remembered it clearly. Mara had left her backpack inside the house. She always dropped it on the kitchen bench. So how did it end up slashed on the porch? Someone had taken it from inside. That meant only one thing. This wasn't just about Walter. Someone we knew was helping him. Someone with a key. Someone who still had access to us, right now. I tore the house apart that night. Every drawer, every closet, every crevice. And behind the air vent in Mara's room, I found it. A second camera. Still warm. Still recording. I pulled the camera from the vent with shaking hands. The moment I held it, I knew it had just been installed. Recently. Maybe even that day. The dust around the vent had been wiped clean in one corner. I didn't say anything to Mara. I didn't want her to know someone had been in her room again. But my brain was on fire. Who had a key? Only one person came to mind. Someone I'd trusted. Someone who used to stop by unannounced. Someone who still had a spare key from years ago, before my wife died. Don Talbert. My boss. My friend of over a decade. We were close once. After my wife passed, he brought over dinner a few times. Said I was like a brother to him. I'd never even thought to ask for the key back. I didn't want to believe it. But when I looked back at that USB Walter sent, the one showing Don in that motel room, I realized something. Walter hadn't sent that stick to expose Don. He sent it to warn him. I checked the metadata Kyle had saved from the hidden cloud feed. Every IP address that had accessed the files in the past month. And there it was, one IP address from inside my own workplace. Don's computer. I didn't go to the cops. I didn't go to the FBI. I went to Don. Face to face. It was a Sunday. I waited for him in the parking lot of our office, 6 a.m. sharp. He parked like always, same gray sedan, same coffee cup in hand. He saw me and smiled, like nothing was wrong. I walked right up and slammed him against his car. Where is it? I growled. Where's the backup? Where are the rest of the cameras? He didn't even try to deny it. You don't want to go down this road, he said, voice low. There are people in this town who would rather burn it all than let the truth out. I pressed harder. Who's watching Mara now? He chuckled. That smirk. That same smug smile Walter had the day on my porch. I made a mistake, all right? Don said. She wasn't supposed to be part of it. Walter got sloppy. You should have left it alone. I'm not going to the police, I said. I'm going to the parents. The papers. I'll go door to door if I have to. His face changed then. He looked scared. But then he whispered, You think you're a hero? You let your daughter date that boy. You let your guard down. You gave us the opening. And something inside me snapped. I don't remember hitting him the first time. Or the second. But I remember the blood on the pavement. The way his nose caved in. The way he begged. I didn't kill him. But I left him with 2 broken ribs, a shattered cheekbone, and enough bruises to keep him in the hospital for weeks. I turned myself in that same day. Told the cops everything. The cameras. The videos. The names. Kyle came forward too, with every file we backed up, every shred of proof. By then, it was too big to hide. The fallout was massive. Over a dozen people were arrested. 3 teachers. 2 cops. 1 city council member. All part of a secret ring Walter had built over 10 years. They paid him. They used his surveillance. They kept quiet when he got too close to getting caught. Don? He flipped. Cut a deal to reduce his sentence. He's in federal prison now. Walter was moved to a high-security facility, but not before someone stabbed him in county lockup. He didn't die. But he'll never walk again. His wife vanished. Never found. The town of Pine Hill will never be the same. And me? I was charged with felony assault. Got probation and mandatory anger management. Lost my job. My house. My reputation. But I don't regret it. Because Mara is safe now. She's still healing. She still checks her closet twice a night. She still jumps when the doorbell rings. But she's going to be okay. I see it in the way she talks now, the way she holds her head higher. I failed her once. I won't fail her again. If you're reading this and you think something's off in your town, some neighbor, some teacher, someone you've always just trusted because they seemed normal, look deeper. Because monsters don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes, they mow their lawn every Sunday. And wave when they see you.